My wife was in bed with a stranger laughing, lingerie on, and holding up her phone. "It's just a TikTok prank," she giggled. I didn't scream. I didn't ask questions. I just walked out. No yelling, no pleading, just silence as I grabbed my keys and left. Everything I thought I knew about my marriage shattered in that moment, and by the time I reached my car, I realized nothing would ever be the same again. I had just finished a 14-hour shift at the firehouse. We'd been called to a house fire, rescued a family trapped inside, and treated a man who had fallen from a construction site. My body ached. My boots were caked with soot. I wanted nothing more than to collapse, shower, and sleep. Instead, I found Lena sitting in our bed like this with a stranger. My mind froze, my stomach sank. I could feel every hour of exhaustion vanish in a second, replaced by disbelief. The stranger looked mortified, probably wondering why he'd agreed to participate in whatever insane scheme Lena had cooked up. My wedding anniversary lingerie. She wore it for the camera, not for me. Lena waved at me, trying to coax me into a reaction. "Aren't you gonna freak out?" she asked, still smiling. But I didn't. I didn't even blink. I realized in that moment that nothing I could say would reach her. Her priorities had shifted. My trust, my dignity, my life didn't matter. I walked past the bed, past Lena's shocked expression, past the stranger frozen in place, and grabbed my wallet, my keys, my phone. I didn't answer her frantic calls. I didn't respond to her texts. I just left the apartment, locked the door behind me, and drove. My mind was silent except for one. I had to get away. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to be somewhere far from the chaos she had created. By the time I reached my car, my hands were shaking, my chest heavy with betrayal. Lena's laughter from the recording still echoed in my ears. That was the moment I realized the prank wasn't just a joke, it was a declaration. She valued views, likes, and social media clout over me. And in that moment, I knew the path forward would change my life forever. I sat behind the wheel numb. The city lights smeared past like paint strokes, and for a moment, I wondered if I was even awake. My hands were still trembling from what I'd seen, my mind replaying Lena in our bed, giggling as a stranger froze under the covers. It felt unreal, like I had been trapped in someone else's nightmare. But it wasn't a nightmare, it was my life unraveling in front of me. Every instinct screamed at me to stop, to yell, to demand an explanation. But the stronger instinct, the one I couldn't ignore, was leave. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't need a destination. All I needed was distance. I thought of Claire, my sister, my anchor. Always steady, always understanding. The kind of person who could make the world pause for a few hours so I could breathe again. I hadn't called her. I wasn't ready to speak, to explain, to try and make sense of what had happened. But I opened my phone and booked the next flight out. The whole time, Lena's messages were flooding in. "It's just a joke. Baby, don't be mad. Open the door. It's funny." I ignored them. I silenced the phone and shoved it into my bag. Every vibration felt like nails scratching my nerves. This wasn't funny. Nothing about this was a joke. My trust, my dignity, everything I had built in our life together, it had been discarded for a few seconds of content and a cheap laugh. I had to get somewhere I could think. Somewhere I could be alone. At the airport, I moved through the terminal like a ghost. Faces swirled past me, strangers smiling, laughing, living lives I couldn't care about. I didn't even look back when the plane doors closed behind me. I sank into the seat by the window, watching the tarmac shrink beneath us as the engines roared to life. Above the clouds, the sun was rising, golden and indifferent. I typed one message to my lawyer. Talk to my lawyer. Then I blocked her. For the first time since that door opened and my world imploded, I felt a fraction of control. Lena could scream, cry, beg, post videos, none of it mattered. I had removed myself from the storm, and in the quiet of the plane cabin, with the clouds stretching endless and white outside the window, I finally allowed myself to breathe. But even in that moment of fragile calm, a cold truth settled over me: nothing would ever be the same. Lena had proven, without a doubt, that our marriage wasn't sacred to her, it was content. And if I wanted to survive, if I wanted to protect what little dignity I had left, I couldn't go back. I landed at Claire's apartment, exhausted but oddly lighter. The city air felt different here, calmer, quieter, free from the chaos Lena had created. I was finally in a space where I could think, where I could breathe, or so I thought. Then my phone buzzed, and buzzed again. Hundreds of missed notifications, hundreds of texts from numbers I didn't recognize. Curious, I unlocked it and froze. The video was live. Lena had posted it. Our bedroom, our anniversary lingerie, the stranger in our bed, her giggling at my reaction, everything. And above it, the title mocked me: cheating prank on my husband. He actually walked out. I couldn't look away. My stomach turned as views climbed. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, then millions. The comments section exploded into chaos, half people calling her brilliant, funny, clever. The other half, my sanity clinging to reality, condemning her. People were laughing at my face, my hurt, my betrayal. Strangers were monetizing my trauma through reactions and reposts. I could feel my chest tighten with every notification. And then it hit me. This wasn't just a prank. Lena didn't just want a reaction. She wanted an audience. She wanted attention. She had weaponized my pain for clout. I felt a surge of anger, but I held it back. I didn't respond. I didn't call. I didn't text. I stared at the numbers climbing, at the strangers laughing at my life, and I realized that the marriage I thought we had was over. It had died the moment she decided my hurt was content. This video, this public humiliation, became the cement that sealed my decision. I was filing for divorce. Even from thousands of miles away, I could feel the world watching. Some messages were sympathetic. "I can't believe she did that." Others were cruel. "Why are you crying? It's just a prank, lol." The worst were the ones that compared me to some overreacting husband. But I stayed silent. Every screenshot, every view count, every comment. I documented it all. This wasn't just humiliation, it was evidence. As I sat on Claire's couch, staring blankly at the ceiling, a strange calm settled over me. I had escaped the apartment, removed myself from the immediate chaos, and now, for the first time, I could plan. The prank had gone public. Lena had made it permanent, and in doing so, she had handed me the proof I needed. This was emotional exploitation. Plain and simple. I knew what I had to do next: lawyer, divorce, legal action, boundaries. The anger would have to be channeled, but the first step was clear. I couldn't engage with her anymore. Couldn't let her manipulate me with drama or sob stories. She had made her choice, and now, it was time for me to make mine. I leaned back into the couch, closed my eyes, and let the enormity of the situation sink in. Millions had seen me humiliated. Millions would continue to see it. But one thing no one could take away: I was finally in control of my own life again. I sat across from Rowan Price, watching her skim through my phone like she already knew the gravity of what she was seeing. The office smelled faintly of coffee and old law books, a mix of calm and authority that I desperately needed. I handed her the phone. "Here," I said. "The video, the text, the monetization, every single thing." Rowan didn't flinch, didn't blink. She watched the video once, twice, and then she put the phone down, steepling her hands like a general planning a battle. "This," she said finally, her voice sharp and confident, "is textbook emotional exploitation. She brought someone into your home, humiliated you on camera, and profited from your trauma. In legal terms, this is a violation of marital trust, and it strengthens a case for emotional cruelty." I blinked. Relief and disbelief mingled in my chest. I had expected advice, perhaps a cautious, "Let's try mediation first." But Rowan wasn't tentative, she was decisive. "So," I asked, my voice quiet, almost unsure, "we can file for divorce over this?" "Absolutely," she said. "And the fact that she monetized the video, that's icing on the cake. Courts take public humiliation seriously. You're not just walking away from a joke. You're walking away from emotional abuse and exploitation. The law is on your side, Ethan." I felt a small spark of hope. I had spent the past few days frozen in disbelief, watching strangers laugh at my life online, wondering if I'd overreacted. Rowan was telling me I hadn't. That my reaction, walking out, blocking her, and documenting everything, was not just reasonable, it was strategic. We went over every detail: screenshots of Lena's texts, timestamps, the video itself, the monetization records, and my own notes about her behavior before and after the prank. Rowan asked me to recount every call, every confrontation, every instance of harassment or manipulative behavior since the video went live. By the end of the meeting, I felt a strange clarity I hadn't experienced since opening that bedroom door. Lena had turned my life into content for her followers, but Rowan was going to turn that content into my leverage. "File the divorce," I said finally. "Cite emotional cruelty, public humiliation, everything." Rowan nodded, already drafting notes in her sharp, precise handwriting. "We're gonna make this clean, decisive, and undeniable. She won't have room to wiggle, Ethan. You documented everything. She walked into your bed and made your betrayal her content. That's a solid case." I leaned back in my chair, letting the tension drain out of my shoulders. For the first time in days, I felt the tiniest flicker of control. Lena could post videos, cry to her followers, or try to manipulate the narrative. It didn't matter. I had Rowan. I had the law, and most importantly, I had the truth on my side. Finally, I whispered to myself, almost like a mantra, "This ends on my terms." I knew the divorce filing would get Lena's attention, but I wasn't ready for the level of chaos she unleashed. I got the first call while trying to settle in at Claire's apartment. The number was unfamiliar, but the voice on the other end made me freeze. "Ethan," Lena sobbed. Her voice cracked, the kind of crying that's meant to pull at anyone's heartstrings. "Why are you doing this?" "It was just a joke." "Didn't mean." I stayed silent. Not a word. She tried again, blaming me, minimizing her actions, twisting reality. "You're ruining everything. You're overreacting. It's content, Ethan. Everyone does this." I didn't respond. I didn't even breathe into the phone. Every word she said was another proof point. Another example of her manipulative behavior. I let it hang there silent, while she cried and pleaded and argued with herself more than with me. Then came the next wave: her mother. I got a call from Claire, who sounded frustrated and defensive. "Ethan," she said, "your mom just got a call from Lena's mom. She says you're destroying Lena's career. That you're a monster." I almost laughed. Except I didn't. Instead, I reminded Claire to stay calm and told her not to engage. Lena had drawn in family, but it didn't change the facts. I wasn't the one who dragged a stranger into our bed for TikTok views. I wasn't the one monetizing another person's humiliation. And then came the video. I scrolled through my feed in disbelief. Lena had posted herself, crying into the camera, telling the world she was abandoned, betrayed, and wronged. She didn't mention me by name, but the context made it clear. Comments poured in, some sympathetic, some calling her out, some laughing. Millions of strangers now had an opinion on our marriage, all while she framed herself as the victim. I could feel my chest tighten, the old ache of betrayal threatening to rise again. But I forced myself to breathe. I documented everything. Every video, every post, every text. Rowan had told me to build the case meticulously, and this was exactly what she meant. Lena's desperation was proof. Her manipulations were public, clear, and undeniable. Sitting on Claire's couch, I realized something. Lena had tried to pull me back in with guilt, drama, and social validation. But she had underestimated one thing: I wasn't going to engage. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to apologize for setting boundaries she should have respected in the first place. Instead, I focused on the one thing I could control: my response, my strategy, and my own life. I let her flail publicly. I let the world watch her unravel. Every post she made was another piece of evidence, another reason why I couldn't, and wouldn't, stay. By the end of the day, my phone was a war zone of notifications, but my mind was clear. I had done the hard part. I had walked out. I had blocked her. I had removed myself. Now, I let the legal system and documentation take over. Lena could scream at the world, but I would stay silent. I would stay steady. And most importantly, I would protect myself. I should have expected this. After the video went viral and Lena's sobbing posts went live, it was clear she wasn't going to stop, but nothing could have prepared me for the avalanche that followed. The first shock hit when I logged into our shared bank account. Every dollar we had set aside for bills, rent, and necessities, gone. Every transfer traceable, every withdrawal deliberate. She had drained it. My stomach dropped. My hands shook, but I forced myself to breathe. Rowan had told me to document everything. I opened a spreadsheet, started screenshots, bank statements, timestamps, everything. Proof, evidence, control. Next came the apartment. Photos I had taken for memories, furniture we'd picked together, smashed, thrown across the room, broken beyond repair. It wasn't just destruction. It was an emotional attack. A final statement of chaos meant to hurt me. I couldn't engage with her, couldn't call or confront her. I documented everything, took pictures, videos, everything Rowan instructed. Every broken frame, every overturned chair, every mark of her rage became another layer of proof. And then, as if orchestrated for maximum effect, she showed up at the firehouse. I was mid-shift when security called me to the lobby. There she was, sobbing, begging, flailing, making a scene in front of co-workers, patients' families, and strangers who had no context. I could feel the rage building, but Rowan's advice echoed in my head: stay calm, don't engage, document everything. I nodded politely at security, let them escort her out, and moved on with my shift. Meanwhile, she continued posting videos online. Clips of her crying, claiming I was controlling, narrating a story of betrayal that painted me as the villain. Comments erupted again. Some supported her, but many saw through the manipulation. Public opinion began to split more clearly, some calling her out for obsession with views and attention. Watching it unfold was surreal. My private nightmare turned into public theater, but, for once, I wasn't a passive participant. I was documenting the truth. Sitting in my station after the case had ended for the day, I realized how different I had to be from her. She acted impulsively, emotionally, and violently. I acted strategically, carefully, and deliberately. Every photo, every video, every screenshot was a step toward regaining control, toward making sure her escalating actions couldn't harm me legally or emotionally. By the time I returned to Claire's apartment that night, I felt a small sense of pride in my restraint. Lena had thrown everything into chaos, but I wasn't broken. I was gathering evidence, building a case, and protecting myself. And as I looked at my phone, recording notifications of her latest video, I knew one thing with absolute clarity: her obsession with attention was becoming her undoing. Every reckless act she committed was reinforcing my path forward. I closed my eyes and let the tension ease slightly. She might have thought she could hurt me, humiliate me, control me. But she had underestimated one thing. I wasn't reacting to her madness. I was preparing to win. I thought I had seen the worst from Lena, but her persistence made it clear she wasn't stopping. The moment she appeared at the firehouse lobby, sobbing and pleading in front of co-workers and patients' families, I realized she had crossed a boundary I couldn't manage with patience alone. This wasn't just emotional manipulation anymore. It was harassment. The decision to file for a restraining order wasn't easy. I sat in Rowan's office, feeling both nervous and resolute. "Do you think the court will grant it?" I asked, unsure if this was just another formality. Rowan gave me a sharp look. "Fen, she's crossed multiple lines. Showing up at your workplace, posting videos implying you're controlling, calling your family, manipulating public opinion. These are clear grounds. The court will protect you. And trust me, the temporary order will make a statement." The hearing was surreal. Lena sat across from me, her face pale, a mixture of frustration and shock. Her lawyer tried to minimize her behavior, claiming she was simply seeking reconciliation. But I had documentation, texts, videos, screenshots, timestamps, photos of the apartment damage. Each piece of evidence was a brick in the wall protecting me. The judge didn't hesitate. A temporary restraining order was granted. 6 months, 500 feet from me, my workplace, and my family's home. Lena's reaction was a mix of disbelief and humiliation. She realized the public spectacle she had built around herself was now part of the legal record against her. I walked out of the courthouse feeling an unexpected relief. For the first time in weeks, the weight of constant anxiety began to lift. Lena's followers were divided, some still pitied her, but more and more began to see her obsession with attention as unhealthy. The public narrative was slowly shifting, not by my actions, but by her own behavior. I knew I couldn't control how the world perceived her, but I could control myself. I focused on therapy, slowly unpacking the betrayal and emotional trauma. Rowan reminded me that setting boundaries wasn't a weakness, it was a form of strength. Every decision to enforce legal limits, every documented response to her harassment, was reclaiming my autonomy. At home that evening, in the quiet of Claire's apartment, I finally allowed myself to breathe. No calls, no manipulative texts, no public spectacle, just silence. I felt my pulse steady, my mind clear. Lena's chaos had forced me to draw firm lines, but in doing so, I had taken back control. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt strategic. I felt empowered. And as the city lights twinkled outside the window, I made a silent promise to myself: nothing, not even her obsession with content and drama, would dictate my life anymore. Walking into the mediation room, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Lena sat across from me, flanked by her attorney, her face carefully composed but with that familiar glint of expectation in her eyes. "Then," she said sweetly, almost too sweetly, "I just want a fair resolution." Then came the demands. 12,000 for emotional distress, our bedroom set, a statement I was supposed to read out confirming the divorce was mutual. I blinked. 12,000, our bedroom set, a public lie. My chest tightened but I stayed calm. Rowan leaned in, whispering, "Don't let her rattle you. Document everything. She's bluffing." Her lawyer tried to push some claims but Rowan shut each one down with precision. Every argument was met with evidence, logic, and the unflinching truth of Lena's escalating behavior. Lena's posture stiffened. Her carefully crafted calm began to crack. I realized then that she hadn't expected resistance. That's when it hit me. Mediation wasn't going to solve this. Trial was inevitable, but I was ready. I left the room with my resolve intact. Lena could demand whatever she wanted, try to manipulate the system and the narrative, but I had documentation, strategy, and truth on my side. Trial wasn't just an option. It was the next step toward closure. Sitting in the courtroom, I felt the weight of weeks of chaos, betrayal, and manipulation. Lena's eyes flicked to me occasionally, searching for a reaction, but I stayed calm, almost invisible to her theatrics. Rowan presented every piece of evidence: the TikTok prank video, Lena's tearful victim posts, and the proof she profited from my humiliation. The courtroom was silent, tension thick, as the judge reviewed everything. "Why post this publicly if it was just a joke?" the judge asked Lena. Her voice trembled. "My followers love this kind of content," she said. The words hung in the air like a confession. I didn't move, I didn't speak. Rowan had done her work. The truth was clear. Lena had turned my life into content, and now her own actions were undeniable in the eyes of the court. For the first time in weeks, I felt the tiniest flicker of relief. The judge's words hit me like sunlight through clouds. Divorce granted, no alimony, no settlement. Lena must remove all content featuring me, and she owes half my legal fees. Silence filled the courtroom as her attorney nodded grimly, and I realized just how far the truth had carried me. Lena's face contorted in disbelief, frustration, and fury. She screamed, "You ruined my life." I felt nothing but clarity. My life wasn't ruined, hers was, by her own choices. Walking out, I felt lighter than I had in months. The city sounded different, quieter somehow. I returned to my firehouse family, the one constant that had kept me grounded throughout this chaos. My new apartment awaited, small, peaceful, mine. No cameras, no pranks, no social media drama. Just me, finally free. A few weeks later, I met someone casually. Coffee, smiles, conversation without expectation. No rush, no pressure. The world felt possible again. I realized something essential: love isn't content. It isn't clout. It isn't a video or a joke. Love is trust, respect, and genuine connection. And I had reclaimed that, first with myself, and now maybe, someday, with someone new. I left the courthouse that day lighter, freer, and finally at peace. The TikTok prank, the betrayal, the chaos, all behind me. Life wasn't perfect yet, but it was mine. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough.